She smirked. My friends all think you're the least attractive guy I've dated. I said nothing. That night, when I sent them screenshots of her begging me to pay her bills, the group chat went silent. It was a quiet, casual comment delivered with the lazy confidence of a cat batting at a trapped mouse. We were getting ready to go out, standing in the bedroom of my apartment. I was tying my shoes, and my girlfriend Chloe was scrolling through her phone, a small, smug smile on her face. The girls are so funny, she said, not looking up. She was, as always, deep in the hive. The group chat she had with her 3 best friends. It was the central nervous system of their social lives. We were just talking about my exes. Oh, yeah, I said. I didn't care about her exes. Yeah, she continued, the smirk in her voice now unmistakable. The consensus is in. My friends all think you're the least attractive guy I've ever dated. She looked up at me then, her eyes gleaming, waiting for a reaction. For a flicker of hurt, a flash of anger, something to prove she'd landed the punch. I gave her nothing. I finished tying my shoe, stood up, and straightened my shirt. I looked at her, held her gaze for a beat, and said nothing. My silence wasn't anger. It wasn't hurt. It was the quiet hum of a high-powered server that has just been given a complex problem to solve. In my world, you don't react to a threat. You analyze it, you model it, and then you neutralize it. She thought she was making a joke. She had no idea she had just triggered a full-scale security protocol. Let me be clear. I'm not a doormat. I don't get played. I'm an information architect. It's a fancy title for a simple job. I build secure, impenetrable digital systems for people in companies with a lot to lose. I design communication networks, protect data, and I understand on a molecular level how information can be used as a weapon. My entire life is about controlling the flow of data and protecting assets from hostile actors. I've been dating Chloe for 6 months. It wasn't a romance. It was a sabbatical for my soul. After a brutal 2-year project building a secure network for a global bank, my brain was fried. I needed to disconnect. I met Chloe at a gallery opening. She was beautiful, charming, and her life was a testament to blissful ignorance. She and her friends, let's call them the Coven, lived in a world funded by parental trust funds and a series of ill-defined creative projects. I wasn't a simp paying her bills. Our arrangement was a clearly defined short-term contract. I had just moved into a new expensive apartment. I traveled a lot for work. I proposed a deal. She could live with me for 6 months. I'd cover the rent and a generous lifestyle allowance which was deposited into her account on the 1st of every month. In return, she handled the social calendar and managed the apartment. It was a pilot program, a 6-month trial to see if our systems were compatible. There was no talk of the future. It was a relationship of convenience with a clear expiration date for reassessment. I knew who she was. I knew who her friends were. They were shallow, judgmental, and obsessed with status. But they were also a fascinatingly insecure system, and I was in essence conducting a 6-month vulnerability assessment. Her comment wasn't a surprise. It was just the final data point I needed. It was a public declaration with her friends as witnesses that she saw me as a temporary resource to be mocked and discarded. The pilot program was a failure. The hostile actor had revealed herself. It was time to terminate the project. And in my line of work, termination isn't just about ending things. It's about ensuring the hostile actor can never compromise your system again. That night, she was still buzzing from her little victory. I was quiet, distant. She mistook my silence for weakness. She had no idea that back in my office, I was already preparing to declassify the most damaging information imaginable, the truth. Update 1. The first rule of information warfare is that you don't attack until you have absolute control of the battlefield. My first step taken that very night while she slept was to secure my own network and lay the groundwork for my counteroffensive. The operation began at 1 a.m. I went into my home office, a room she called the Nerd Cave, and began the systematic process of cutting her out of my digital and financial life. She was an authorized user on my primary credit card. I logged into the account. In the section marked Manage Users, I clicked the small satisfying button that said Remove. The virtual guillotine fell. Next, the lifestyle allowance. I had a recurring transfer of $5,000 scheduled to go into her account in 2 days. On the 1st of the month, I logged into my bank's portal and canceled the transfer. The primary supply line for her entire existence was now severed. I then moved on to the apartment itself. While the lease was in my name, she had a key and the code to the building's front gate. I logged into the building management's resident portal. I reported my keys as lost and my gate code as compromised. I scheduled a locksmith to come the very next day to change the locks and a technician to issue a new gate code which would be sent only to my phone. With my own assets secured, I prepared the weapon. The title of this post isn't just a catchy phrase. The screenshots were real and they were devastating. For the past 6 months, every time Chloe needed money for something outside of her allowance, a last-minute trip with the girls, a deposit for a new creative project, an emergency vet bill for the designer cat she just had to have, she would text me. Her texts were a masterclass in manipulation. They were always a mix of feigned helplessness and subtle demands. "Babe, I'm so embarrassed to ask, but my car just made a funny noise and the mechanic says it's $2,000. I don't know what to do." Or, "OMG, Tiffany just invited me to Cabo for the weekend, but I'm a little short. You're the best. You always save me." I had paid every single time. Not because I was a fool, but because I was compiling a file. Each transfer was a data point. I had a complete time-stamped archive of her financial dependency. I spent the next hour scrolling through our text history, taking crystal-clear screenshots of every single time she had begged me for money. I saved them in a folder on my secure server labeled simply the audit. There were 17 of them. 17 separate instances of her pleading for cash. Each one a testament to the lie of her independent, glamorous life. Now, I needed a delivery system. I needed to get these screenshots into the hive. For a man in my profession, this was trivial. Months ago, when Chloe had complained that her laptop was slow, I had offered to clean it up for her. While I was running diagnostics, I installed a piece of custom software, a simple undetectable keylogger and backup utility that gave me a real-time encrypted feed of her entire digital life. It was a standard security protocol I use for clients in sensitive situations. I considered my own home to be a sensitive situation. I had never used it to spy on her. I had it as a contingency, an emergency backdoor in case the system was ever compromised. It had just been compromised. I logged in. The Hive group chat was a cesspool of casual cruelty. I scrolled back for hours. They had been mocking me all night. My clothes, my job, my taste in music, and of course, my appearance. It was all there in black and white. They weren't just her friends. They were her co-conspirators. With the weapon armed and the delivery system in place, all I had to do was wait for the perfect moment to deploy it. Update 2. The next day, the first signs of system failure began to ripple through Chloe's world. She left in the morning for a yoga class and a day of shopping with the coven. I had the locksmith come while she was gone. When she returned in the late afternoon, laden with bags from a shopping trip she didn't know she couldn't afford, her tea didn't work. Her call to me was a mixture of confusion and annoyance. "Hey, my key isn't working. Did you change the locks or something?" "I did." I said, "There was a security issue." "Well, can you let me in?" "I'm standing in the hallway." "No, our arrangement has been terminated. Your access to the premises is permanently revoked." The silence on the other end of the line was heavy. "What are you talking about?" She finally stammered. "You can't just kick me out." "I'm not kicking you out," I explained, my voice as patient as if I were explaining a firewall to a new client. "I am deprovisioning a user who has violated the terms of service. You have 24 hours to arrange for a supervised collection of your personal belongings. Please coordinate a time with me via text." I hung up. The real chaos began about an hour later. She must have tried to use her credit card to book a hotel room. The frantic panic text started to flood in. My card was declined. All of them. "What did you do?" I didn't reply. Then came the begging. "Right on schedule." "Okay. I'm sorry for what I said. It was a stupid joke. Can you please just turn my cards back on for tonight? I have nowhere to go. Please just talk to me. I need money. My rent on my old apartment is due tomorrow. I was going to pay it with the allowance. You can't just leave me with nothing." This was it. The final crucial pieces of evidence. She was confirming in her own words that she was completely dependent on me for her most basic needs. I took screenshots of these new desperate messages and added them to the audit folder. Now it was time to publish. I logged into my backdoor access to her laptop. The Hive group chat was on fire. Chloe was giving them a frantic, one-sided version of the story. He just kicked me out for no reason. He cut off my cards. He's a monster. Her friends were rallying to her defense. OMG, he's actually insane. You need to get a lawyer, sweetie. He can't do that. You have rights. They were building their narrative, casting her as the victim and me as the unhinged villain. I waited until their righteous indignation was at its peak. Then I took control of Chloe's computer from her own device using her own chat login. I uploaded the entire audit file into the Hive. 19 screenshots of her begging for money over the course of our relationship, culminating in the desperate pleas from that very evening. I typed one single message from her account, a message that would sow maximum chaos. Since you guys are my best friends, I wanted to be honest with you. This is the reality of my financial situation. Please don't judge me. And then I sent it. I watched their reactions in real time. First, there was confusion. Then a long pregnant pause. I could see the 3 little dots appear and disappear as each of them started to type, then stopped, then started again. The first one to break the silence was the leader of the pack. Chloe, what is this? Is this a joke? Before Chloe, who was presumably staring in horror at her phone somewhere else, could reply, I sent one more message from her account. No, it's not a joke. He just sent them to me. He said he's sending them to my parents next if I don't leave him alone. It was a lie, of course. I had no intention of contacting her parents. But it was the perfect tactical lie. It reframed the situation. It made it seem like I was blackmailing her. Yes. But it also made her look like a cornered animal, forced to reveal the ugly truth of her desperation to her friends. Then I delivered the final fatal blow. I typed one last message. He also said that you guys were right. He is the least attractive guy I've ever dated. But he was also the only one willing to pay for all of this. I hit send and then the group chat went silent. Utter complete deafening silence. The Hive was dead. I logged out, deleted my access key, and wiped the logs. My work was done. Final update. It's been a month since I published the audit. The aftermath was even more complete than I had anticipated. The silence in that group chat was the sound of a social structure collapsing in on itself. I learned from a mutual acquaintance what happened next. The friends didn't rally around Chloe. They scattered. The screenshots I had released had done 2 things. First, they had exposed Chloe as a fraud. The glamorous, independent woman they admired was, in fact, a desperate grifter, completely dependent on a man she openly disdained. This made her look pathetic, and in their world, pathetic is a terminal disease. But more importantly, my final fabricated message had turned them against each other. By making it seem like Chloe had agreed with their assessment of me while also admitting she was only with me for the money, I had implicated them in her scheme. It made them look like her co-conspirators, a coven of mean girls who were just as transactional and cruel as she was. They weren't just embarrassed, they were exposed. They immediately distanced themselves from her to save their own reputations. Chloe was left with nothing. No apartment, no money, no friends. She had to arrange a supervised visit to my apartment with a mover to collect her things. I wasn't there. I had my lawyer handle it. She apparently spent the entire time crying. She did, in fact, have to move back in with her parents. Her car was repossessed last week. Her creative projects have all dried up without my seed funding. She is, for the first time in her adult life, completely on her own. I never did release the screenshots to her parents. I never had to. The threat was more powerful than the act itself. My revenge wasn't about shouting or making a scene. It was about information. She and her friends used information as a weapon to judge me and to establish their social hierarchy. So, I did the same. I just used better, more accurate information. They were playing with gossip. I was playing with data. And data always wins. They wanted to make my value a topic of conversation. So I gave them the full unredacted report. The silence in that group chat was the sound of their world being audited and their accounts being closed permanently.